Hello, everyone. Welcome to TFT Fates. It's finally here. All the champions have spoiled, all the classes have spoiled, all the origins have spoiled. Everything is finally here. We're waiting on a few number tweaks, obviously, when PBE does some testing, and we're waiting on some mana costs. But today's the day. They have finally spoiled everything. Like I said, all the classes are here, all the origins are here. Because there's so many things subject to change, and there's going to be a ton of videos going over all this information, realistically, there's no point. If you want to look at this sheet, pause the video. You can take a look at this cheat sheet. However, this is the official TFT cheat sheet. So if you go to their Twitter at TFT, you will be able to see this image. It's also, I posted in our Discord, discord.gg/sklesports. But just to give a very brief synopsis. So origins, all completely different, obviously because it's Fates. Cultist, Divine, Dusk, Enlightened, Elderwood, Exile, Fortune, Moonlight, Ninja, Spirit, Warlord, the Boss, and Tormented. The Boss and Tormented are only for 5 costs. They're for Set and Kane, respectively. Essentially, these are going to replace like the Mercenary and the Starship ones. These are just additional mechanics for the 5 costs. Super cool. And then for classes, we have Adept, Assassin, Brawler, Dazzler, Duelist, Hunter, Keeper, Mage, Mystic, Shade, Sharpshooter, Vanguard, and Emperor. And Emperor is only for Azir. Just like I said in the last video, he is here. He is the 5 cost for Warlords. He's got some cool stuff for him. But realistically, if you want to take a look at what these champions do, go online, go to like Mobalytics or any of those team builder sites and just take a look at each of the individual champions like I did this morning. This video is not going over that. What we're going to go over in this video is something I like to call openers. So, what is an opener? An opener is a group of 1 and 2 cost champions that share overlapping traits. These are clusters that you want to find pairs of to start win streaking. So once you find the pairs, then you can find the third one to give you 2 stars. Then additionally, with the 2 stars and the traits, you get a big spike in power. And then you can use these openers to start moving towards late game builds. These openers also help you decide what you're going to be doing towards the end of the game. So whether it's a cluster leads directly into an end game comp, or a cluster is just your like starting comp, build up the units, and then late game you just completely transition. Similar to something like Astro Snipers, you couldn't really have a cluster for Astro Snipers before because all the snipers were like super expensive, especially the carries. Teemo and Jhin were like your carries. The only real sniper that was at the beginning of the game was like Ashe, Vayne, and Caitlyn, with Caitlyn being the only 1-star. So odds are these clusters will do, like I said, one of 2 things. Either they'll just transition directly into a build, or you build this opener and then you have an idea in mind that this opener using the same items can transition very easily into this late game comp. So it's essentially, it lets you change your gigantic tree of decision making where you could go in literally 15 million different ways because that's the way TFT is made, and it lets you not feel lost. It lets you have a very clear decision. It has a very clear path. The one thing to keep in mind though, this does not mean that once you get this opener that, oh, okay, this opener restricts me to these comps. No. Similar to like a tree, even though that one decision-making branch is on the other side of the tree, you can still get there. You can still transition. It's just going to be a little bit harder. But the other thing that's going to make it easier to do those transitions, and it's basically just like vines coming down from the tree, are Chosen. Chosen is going to throw openers out the, like, just go crazy. So, couple notes. Like I said, these are obviously subject to change before the beginning of the set. This is just my initial thoughts. I literally went into a team builder, looked at all the 1s and 2 costs. I went and grabbed one cost. It was like, how do I build an opener around this set of traits? And then just went from there. Based on how it feels when we play it, based on what is good, what is bad, it's going to change all throughout the PBE, and it's going to change all throughout the set. This is just at the beginning. All openers that I picked will have no more than 1 2-cost champion, except for Elderwood, which we're going to get into. The reason being is 2-star 2 costs are very expensive. They cost 6 gold, and early game economy is super important. These are templates. They are not end all be all. Chosen is going to change openers drastically in this set because you used to choose openers based on your shops and items. Now you're going to choose openers based on your shops, your items, and whatever chosen you get. You could be going one way and all of a sudden you get one shop with a chosen and another champion that matches the traits of the chosen, and you're just going to immediately switch gears, play your strongest. And again, some openers I may have missed due to chosen mechanic. There may be you get a chosen and you're able to do something completely different than what I talk about here. These were just the most obvious to me. So for starters, we have the Vanguard Duelist Divine. So for you, those of you who don't know, so Vanguards get increased armor. Divine, once they hit a certain threshold, they start taking reduced damage and they start to deal increased true damage. And duelists, they innately, so when I say innately, it means that no matter what happens, they just get that. So essentially, assassins innately jump to the back. We always know about that one. Duelists innately move faster, and after a certain amount of time, they get additional attack speed. So for the champions that we have here, we have Garen, who is a Warlord Vanguard. We have Wukong, who is a Divine Vanguard. We have Jax, who is a Divine Duelist. And we have Yasuo, who is an Exile Duelist. And Exiles, when they start on one side of the board, away from everybody else, they get a bonus shield. So why do I think this is a good opener? Number one, look at the traits. It matches perfectly. Number two, it's a ton of frontliners, so early assassins aren't going to affect this comp as much. Number three, we've seen openers very similar to this in the past with berserkers, with brawlers and one range carry. I just think this is going to be very good because you have a melee carry in Jax. You have two very strong champions in Garen and Yasuo to kind of complement the two synergies that you're going to get. And as well as you just get to deal a bunch of true damage and you get to get tanky. Chosen is going to affect this comp drastically. So number one, if you get a chosen warlord, you can at level 5 either add that chosen warlord, or if your chosen warlord is Garen, you can choose one of the warlords to add to get that 3 bonus. If you get exile as a chosen, and I'm going to preface this by saying Mort has specifically said some traits you cannot get chosen for. I'm going to guess exile is one of them because that seems a little strong to me. Because exile, once you get 2, because there's only a 1-star and a 5-star exile, once you get Yasuo and Yone together, they both get additional shields and they get a ton of lifesteal. I think getting that lifesteal in the early game is going to be a bit too strong, so I'm just going to put this here just to say it, but I don't think this is going to be viable. The other thing that you can get is if you get a chosen Vanguard. So if your Wukong is chosen, you can just scrap the Garen and start moving into ranged carries or some more Divine. Or if you end up with chosen Divine, you can start moving towards the 4 synergy and even the 6. I really don't think you're going to want the 6 synergy for Divine unless you get a chosen, because it doesn't seem like that much of an added bonus, and some of the Divine don't synergize well together. Jax and Wukong do, because then you can go into Vanguards and you can go into Duelists, but we'll get into that. So potential item options. So Titan's Resolve on Jax. I think Divine having something like Titan's Resolve specifically, because number one, once they get below 40% health, they're going to start taking reduced damage. So it's going to allow the Titan's Resolve to start stacking more. Two, getting that additional bonus damage percentage for your true damage from your Divine procs, I think is going to be very good. And number three, it's Chain Vest and Belt. Divine and Duelists want to attack a bunch, so attack speed and tank item, I think is going to be really good. Tank items on Jax, so things that we've seen on tanks before: Warmogs, Bramble Vest, Declaw, stuff like that. Essentially, letting your Jax live to the point where his Divine can proc and start dueling and just dealing a ton of true damage. The other thing is, I think Warwick is going to be this set's set to Olaf, in that he is a 4-cost melee carry that is going to deal a ton of damage. And I think giving Wukong or Garen those Warwick items as an item holder is going to be very good. And that's something that you're going to want to look for a lot in openers is you want to find out who your item holders are to sell them and then immediately put your items on your 4-cost carry when you find him or her. Next up, we have the Moonlight Assassins. Now, I want to make one very specific note about this comp, as there's 5 champions on this board, and we see 4 Moonlight. The reason is, I don't know between Aphelios and Lysandra which one is going to be better. The core seems to be Silas and Diana because that gives you frontline and damage. So you're going to pick one of you're going to pick one of Lysandra and one of Aphelios. Because Lysandra is the 1 cost, I'm going to assume it's that one initially, but you can transition Lysandra to Aphelios once you get him because he's probably going to be a ranged carry. I don't know how much damage he does, but I think for sure you're going to want Diana and you're going to want Silas. Chosen options, obviously Moonlight. Again, this might be one where you're not actually able to get a chosen Moonlight. I hope so, but again, that might seem too strong because you only need 2 of them and then it just picks one or the other. We'll have to see. Then at level 4, if you do get 2 chosen, if you do get 2 Moonlight because of chosen, you'll have 3 Moonlight, 2 Assassins, 2 Brawlers. I think you could put in something like Vi and Pike. Just any sort of brawler that goes along with the for the Silas for the front line, and then 2 assassins to give your Diana spell crit and spell damage. So in this set, brawlers, it's the same as always. Your front line gets more health. Assassins, instead of the normal one, so they always jump to the back as usual. They get crit, strike additional chance, and crit damage, and their spells crit. So essentially, it's just the trifecta of crit. Potential options, so spell damage on Diana to make her Pale Cascade, so her shield stronger, and then tank items on Silas or whoever your other brawler is. I think is going to be really good. And then this is going to, if you get this opener, you're going to want to start not leveling and go for slow rolling to get 3 stars because the 4 stars of these champions are very strong. Potential chosen options other than the Moonlight, if you just get a chosen brawler, like if Silas, you just get a chosen Silas with brawler, I think that's going to be really good. Assassin, then you don't need Assassin for Pike, you could just go for Assassin at level 6. You can do a bunch of different options if you get Diana as a chosen Assassin. We'll see. Like I said, chosen just adds so many diverse paths. The more I see, like, comp builds, especially early game with chosen, the more excited I get for this mechanic. I think it's going to actually be very good for the game. I think it's going to add a lot of diversity. Even though this set has a lot of repeat kits, because a lot of the classes are different, because a lot of the traits are different, because of this chosen mechanic, I really do feel like it's going to feel very different. The next one we have is Cultist Keepers. So brief overview of Cultist. So that was the Blood Moon skin with the Galio. We've now found out what it does. When your team gets below, when your collective team gets below 50% health, Galio comes down, slams onto the field. He targets the largest cluster of enemies on the field to do the knockup. Keepers at the beginning of combat gives a shield to all nearby all nearby allies, and keepers gain an additional percentage of that shield. So essentially, you make your entire team tanky, and then the keepers themselves get even tankier. So chosen options for this one. So we have Cultist, so you can replace Pike with a Mage, and at level 5 go for 3 Mage. You can go, if you get just a Keeper, you can at level 5 go for 4 Keepers, get a ton of shields. At level 5, you can go for 3 Mages if you get a chosen Mage. If you get Pike as a chosen Assassin, then he just is an Assassin. So potential item options, so Shojin for TF. So TF is the same thing, he throws his 3 cards. Shojin has been really good on him in the past. Healing could be really good on Cultists because once you go below 50% health, the Galio starts tanking for your team, and then your team can heal back up and start dealing the damage. I think that's going to be a really viable option. So something like Hand of Justice, Gunblade, Bloodthirster, stuff like that could be good in this comp. Again, I can only do so much without actually seeing other games played and playing them myself. Theory crafting is still fun. that's why we're here, is we're going to theorycraft, but keep that in mind, is that a lot of the things that I'm saying in here are literally just speculation based off of how I've played in previous sets, what I think could be good, and just general like TFT knowledge. This one, so Elderwood. So remember what I said at the beginning, where Elderwood is one of those comps where it's going to have 2/2 costs in it, and you see here we only have 3 champions. And the reason for that specifically is because there's only 3 Elderwoods at the beginning. You can go one of 2 ways with this, and it really just depends on how much damage these 3 champions do together. If they don't do enough damage, and I don't think they do, you're probably going to want to move towards mages. If you can get an Elderwood chosen, you can bypass one of either Lulu, Hecarim, or Maokai and get the 3 Elderwood bonus right away and start moving into mages. Brief, like, little synopsis on Elderwood. The longer combat goes, the stronger they get. They get increased health, increased armor, increased spell damage, increased attack damage. So over time, it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. I think specifically that because it takes mages a long time to build up their alts, you get the time needed to start building up your stats, and then you ultimate, and then you just deal a ton of damage, and then your tanks are still there tanking for the next set of ultimates that are to come out. That's why I think this is going to be really good. On top of that, one of the Elderwoods is a mage, especially the early ones. That's just going to be an easy transition. You have a tanky front line in Maokai and Hecarim. You have a bunch of mages in the back line dealing a bunch of damage. Real quick, mages in this set is different. So every time they cast twice. Now that seems really broken, but because of the ability to cast twice, they deal reduced spell damage. So what that means is when you're casting twice, for the 3 mage bonus, it's a 70% spell damage. Like, that's how much your spells do now. But because you're casting twice, what that actually means is your spells deal 40% additional damage because it's casting twice. Keep in mind, once you get to 6 mage, that doesn't exist. The negative effect. So you just cast twice. Could be really strong. We'll see. I think the only way you're going to be able to get to 6 mage consistently with a good front line is if you get a chosen mage. That's going to get you 6 mages and 3 frontliners because you'll only have 5 mage and then one of the chosen. We'll just have to see. But I think Elderwoods are going to be a strong frontline for it. There's some other Elderwoods later on. We're not going to get into those. We're basically not going to talk about any of the 3, 4, or 5 costs. Okay, we're just talking about openers for your transitions. Potential options, so tank items for your front line. One thing to keep in mind specifically for TFT, if you're a lower elo, something that will help you climb games much easier, tank items carry early games harder and stronger than damage items. Reason being, items scale with stars and with damage. So like when you have Infinity Edge, when you're critting with a 1-star carry, that really doesn't mean much because they're not doing a lot of damage. When you're critting with multiple items on your carry, and he's a 2-star, and they're getting bonus traits to add additional damage to the crits, that's when it starts to scale. Tank items early game are just your frontliner just will not die, and then your combats take a lot longer early game, so prolonging it even longer benefits those tank stats, and it lets your champions, even though they don't have items, actually deal more damage because the fight is just longer. They can cast more ultimates. On top of that, armor items early game are very strong because a lot of combat is based around attacks. Like, with not a lot of spells, you cast 1 to 2 ultimates maybe in a fight early game. Late game is when it becomes a lot of magic damage. That's why Vanguards are very strong early game, fall off late game. Mystics are not as strong early game and quite strong late game because fights have this like dial where beginning is almost all focused on attack damage. As the game goes on, we slowly transition to 50% magic, 50% attack damage, and then it goes all the way across to like most fights are decided by magic damage unless you have an AD carry in the back. Just to keep in mind. So tank items, very strong. Something I talk about a lot in these openers. Just putting a tank item like Warmog's Bramble Vest on your frontliner, very, very good. There's a reason that Warmog's Jarvan was so strong last set, and it was because it just was so tanky. It was so hard to kill. Build tank items. Warlord Sharpshooters. So again, real quick, as a note, in the bottom right-hand corner, we have two costs, Vi and Jarvan. I don't know which Warlord is better. My gut says Jarvan because he's CC, and essentially he's the flag and drag, like the Dragon Strike. He plants his flag down, Qs forward, knocks up everyone in an area, and deals damage. I think having additional CC with two ranged carries, in this case Nidalee and Vayne, having those carries is going to be super important, letting them deal more damage, and then having them CC'd to allow them to deal more damage, very good. Chosen options for this, Sharpshooters at level 5, you can go to 4 Sharpshooters. Warlords go for level 6 Warlord, 2 Sharpshooter. Or you can just have a, like we've seen, chosen Garen with Vanguard, and Garen becomes a tanky boy. Real quick, we've already discussed Warlord in the past video. Whenever they win at combat, they get additional stats. Sharpshooters, their trait essentially allows them to, their attacks and spells ricochet to like nearby targets. So we have Nidalee and Vayne as 1-cost sharpshooters. Nidalee, as I mentioned in the last video, I was right. When she throws her spear, it deals additional damage based on how many hexes it travels before it hits the target. So it's gonna go very far, and then it's also gonna ricochet a little bit. And then Vayne is the same as Vayne has always been as a 1-cost. Her attacks 1, 2, and then the third one procs, deals a bunch of extra damage. Real quick, because I don't know if we've talked about it, but Garen's ultimate, he just spins in a circle, deals damage, and takes reduced magic damage. So you're going to have 2 frontliners, 2 backliners. This is essentially going to be the brawler blaster of this set, the like knights and rangers of this set. I think having vanguards and sharpshooters is essentially your, I have a front line, I have a back line that pew 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 shoots people. Potential item options. This is just really going to become what the carry meta is. Last set, the carry meta was IE Last Whisper X. It's probably still going to be the same because that combo is just so strong together. Most of the time it was IE Last Whisper Giant Slayer. That required you to have, I think it was 2 swords, 2 crit cloaks, and 2 bows. So yeah, we'll see if that's the same thing again, and then either Vayne or Nidalee will end up becoming a item holder, and then you just transition those items to a 4-cost sharpshooter late game. And that's it. So real quick, so just to kind of go over, so Vanguard Duelist Divine, again, I'm not sure exactly if this is going to be super, super good, but based on like the fact that it's just always like anything that you see where you have 4 champions and you have like this many traits, this to me looked like the easiest. Wow, this looks strong. Yasuo as an exile, Jax is your carry, and then Garen and Wukong as your frontliners. The positioning for real quick, the positioning for all these is very subject to change. You're probably going to want to have Wukong and Garen next to each other and Jax on the far left. The reason being is that you want to have your tanky guys in the center, your off carries on the left so they don't take aggro, so they have time to go up. But that might change because of the divine trait. You may want Jax to take a bunch of damage early, then start taking reduced damage so you can deal true damage. I don't think that's the case. I think you're going to want to have Wukong in the center to get that, and then have Jax over here, and then Yasuo over here. So they kind of pincer maneuver. Moonlight Assassins. Again, I'm not sure which Moonlight's going to be best. It's probably going to be Sylas, Diana, Lissandra, because Lissandra is the 1-cost. Having 2 costs might be a bit trickier. It really depends on reroll percentages as well, because it might be that you find your 2-star Diana, you get these 3-star, and then just the Moonlight trait puts her up to 3-star. I don't think that's the case. I think this trait is really going to benefit from getting all 3-3-stars. So it's probably going to be stay at level 4, stay at level 5, 3-star these two, build up your Silas, get the 3-star Silas, and then whether or not it's 4-star Silas or 4-star Diana, or even 4-star Lysandra, I'm really not sure. Cultist Keepers, to me, this looked like the weakest opener. I don't think this is going to be that strong. I don't see a lot of damage in this comp. It really is going to depend how strong Galio is. If Galio is super strong, this becomes a very easy opener, but I feel like Cultist is going to be more of a mid-game option rather than an early game option. But again, without having played the set, I'm not sure. Elderwood Mage, this is the most, I think, scaling of a opener, and it's really going to depend on Chosen. If you can get Elderwood as a Chosen, then you can just skip one of these and start going into Elderwood Mages. If you get a Mage as a Chosen, you can go level 4, 3 Elderwood, 3 Mage. I think that's going to be really good. Again, we'll have to see. Warlord Sharpshooter, I think this is going to be the basic opener. You have ranged carries, you have frontliners, you have the Warlord scaling. I think this is probably the one I'm the most confident in, along with the Divine Vanguard Duelist. I think those two just inherently look like things that have succeeded in previous TFT metas. Um, Ironically, so is the Elderwood Mage because you have frontliners and you have casters. I think those three are the most likely to succeed. Moonlight and Cultist is really going to depend on how the units play out and what the trait / strength of the trait is going to look like. So that's going to do it. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at edge_SKL. Check out SKL_esports on Twitter, or check out our website, sklesports.ca. Stay tuned for more videos. This is just the first. We're going to do some more. I'm probably going to save more videos to find out, because I realize PBE actually starts tomorrow. They just announced. So PBE actually starts on September 1st, not September 2nd. Big deal. So we get to start playing as early as tomorrow. So I'm probably going to take tomorrow to play, learn, and then record another video for Wednesday or Thursday of this week, so the 2nd or 3rd, and then we'll start figuring out where to go from there. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.